Hello and welcome to the Southbound Sports Show. I'm your host, Richie Leahy, here with my co-host, Maddie B. And I'm getting pressure from the show. People are like, we're getting ranked in France, getting a lot of positive downloads, and people are coming out. The haters are coming out, dude. They don't like our takes on some of the stuff, especially spring games, which we'll get into later in the show. But the first thing, the draft's coming up. And I got to travel up to PA, talk to some Steelers fans, right? Let's get a finger on the pulse of things, see where people are thinking. And it's almost like the waiting game has hurt fan expectations. People that I know have season tickets, they're not really excited about the season because it was clear when Russ went to New York and then like Jameis went to New York. You're putting all your basket, like everything on Mason Rudolph. That's not exciting. And then just getting a feel of like, hey, what do you want to happen? Draft QB, sign Aaron Rodgers, or like what, give up? Because like there's no other way for them to go right now, right? They either have to sign Aaron Rodgers or they have to draft the QB. But from my straw poll,
but I'll say this. I don't think that it's a either or. I think it's even if they do draft Rodgers, you still have to take a quarterback. Like the quarterback problem isn't going away right now, and you have to have it. You have to have that situation taken care of.
But if they go all in, like the Jets did, they have Mason Rudolph. Like, they can get him help, which might extend the rebuild. So you might not need to get a quarterback.
This is my ballsy take of the week is that with the way the quarterback situation is right now, take a quarterback in the first round, take a quarterback in the third round at this point. Like, throw spaghetti at the walls, go the RG3 Kirk Cousins route, and figure it out.
No, hear me out.
Situation squared away. No, because we already whiffed on Jameis. He could have been the quarterback of the future.
Well, I got a plan for you. You go on Aaron Rodgers, you get defensive help, you get offensive help in the draft, and you go all in. Worst case scenario, Rodgers gets hurt, the Steelers tank, and we get Arch Manning next year, bro. And then, because you focused on the draft and building your team, he's not coming into an absolute slaughter. Like the Brown situation of all those years where it's like, hey, we're going to draft the new quarterback, going to get killed. Right? Buy the jersey. One of them has to hit, right? Where I think if they focused, they can use Aaron Rodgers as kind of like that stopgap of, hey, we're either going to continue, and it works both ways too. Because like if Aaron Rodgers comes in and does well, and they have like that young core built, who knows? Maybe then they trade up next year instead of trading up in this draft. Because I still think there's not a sure thing. Like if Cam Ward goes number one, you don't trade up. And for the number two, like you don't trade up because you can either get Sanders, but Sanders seems to be slipping. And I think the Steelers had a big meeting about him the other day. So he's slipping so much that next, if he's not the guy, you go with Jackson Dart or somebody, which might work out better. But the best way, like I said, for me to do it or for me to focus on it, if it was me right now, what I would do is I would try to get Aaron Rodgers still this year and use the draft to even trade down, do whatever, try to get picks for next year, and maybe even bring in like another receiver. Heck, I'd keep joking about bringing in Antonio Brown. But if you have Metcalf, Pickens, and Antonio Brown and Aaron Rodgers, I don't care who you have at running back. You can get Scatterbo, right? And if he's as deadly as he was in college, I know he wasn't running as fast. You don't have to run fast if you have those dudes out there. Like, go for it. Heck, Mullings, Michigan's running back, surprisingly got an invite to, I think, the Vikings, like top whatever draft pick. So like each team has a limited number of visits that you can use on players. Running backs haven't been getting invites, right? Because teams aren't going to, this is where they decide, like in the first round of, hey, first 2 rounds, who are we going to pick? You're inviting guys that you're trying to decide between in the first 2 rounds or so. And so running backs haven't been valued that high. So for him to get a visit on the Vikings, that was kind of shocking to me to see, like, whoa, I know he's like a big bruiser and he can keep plays alive. He broke out of that one tackle in Ohio State to seal the game, basically, for the field goal try on 3rd and long. It would have been like a 50-yard field goal, 60-yard field goal. He ran all the way down to like the 10 or something after breaking a couple of tackles. And maybe you go like a route, like you can get a running back if you want, Steelers, like whatever you want to do. But I would rather see them go that route and try to get more weapons. And if Aaron Rodgers doesn't come, then like you said, they should know by then, right? Look, I honestly wouldn't be surprised.
I just worry with where Rodgers is in his career right now, and for as badly as New York ended up tanking with him there, is it going to be a cancer?
That's why it's an Arch Manning fit, bro. You bring him in, you let him do his thing, and heck, they could even wait and sign him the second day of the draft. Is the Manning
family going to allow Pittsburgh to? Are they going to allow Arch to go to Pittsburgh? Because that's the other part to this.
Dude, Pittsburgh's such a big city that with Tomlin still there, they would love it. Pittsburgh's such a big football city. That's like a dream of any football family. Like the Mannings would 100% be behind it. The Chargers or whatever last time, yeah, they haven't invested until they hired Harbaugh, right? Who are we kidding? So the fact that Pittsburgh might be a fit, they could even be working behind the scenes with Aaron Rodgers to get it figured out. Heck, if the Steelers are unsure, they could wait till Thursday, first round of the draft. If Sanders doesn't fall and Jackson Dart's not there, if those are the 2 guys, that's what I'm hearing. If they're not available, you don't trade up, you don't do anything. You just say, okay. And after that first night, you call Aaron Rodgers and say, let's do it. Like, come on, you're in. We're going to give you, like, who do you want us to draft? Like, let's get some weapons. Who do you think would help build the team that you need? Like, we'll get you some dynamic playmakers, focus some more on defense. Because TJ Watt wants to win. Every Steeler fan knows it. They're like, we're surprised he didn't actually force that trade. And it's like, the Steelers gave him some assurances. And to me, I think the number one thing is that he knows that they're either going to get a Sanders, or if that doesn't work out, they're going to get Aaron Rodgers. So, like, I'm telling you, I have a feeling that I wouldn't be surprised if the first day of the draft, the Steelers don't get a quarterback, if Aaron Rodgers is signed before the draft is done. That's just a gut feeling I have. Heck, he could be signed before it if they're getting vibes that Sanders isn't going to be available. I really don't think they're going to trade up. Because like I said,
maybe there's a better option. They just say, hey, Aaron Rodgers, go do all the weird drugs and podcasts that you want to do. We're going to sign you. We'll just sign you after OTAs. That way the other quarterbacks can get reps. We'll bring you in late. Then you can just be ready for camp.
Yeah, but if they don't draft anybody and they just have Mason Rudolph and like they draft some QB in the 7th round, I mean, that's how Brock Purdy got in, right? So maybe it could work out. But who's even available? Who do you draft that late? Milrow.
I don't know.
I've heard that they might be interested in Milrow late. I don't think he's going to be taken early. So I wouldn't be surprised if, like, let's say, I think this is how it will play out. First round, they'll get Sanders or Dart. If they're not available, they'll try to get Aaron Rodgers. If Aaron Rodgers comes or doesn't come, to your point, they could still get Milrow in the 3rd or 4th round, probably, maybe 5th. And then they're taking a flyer on him, someone that can move the ball out of the pocket, make plays. and see what happens. If Rodgers goes down, you have him. You're still not really out of it for Arch Manning next year. Then you might have two guys battling it. A second season Milroe. I almost said a sophomore. Basically would be an NFL sophomore. Milroe versus Arch Manning if the team really tanks. Right? But to your point, you're battling it out, see what happens, and then you pick up another, like, a guy from the UFL or something as your third string QB. It could work. There are other guys that are going to be floating around. But I even have to see, is the draft this week or is it next week? They always, like, push it back, I feel like, right?
Yeah.
So I should know this before the show. I used to be on top of this stuff. As I get into my old age, people are really liking me just rant about things. So it's the 24th. It is next week. I thought so. Because the first round's on Thursday. Rounds 2 and 3 are on Friday. So in reality, if the play is, let's see, maybe they don't even get Dart in the first round. They wait for day 2 and 3, sign Aaron Rodgers like Saturday morning. I don't think there's like a limit on if you can sign free agents, right? You could sign him whenever. The free agency's still open, I believe, unless they do have a pause for the draft. Most guys are already signed, though, right? The teams just don't naturally sign a Hall of Fame QB during the draft. They could trade. They could trade for somebody, but I mean, even other teams that are kind of hesitant on doing whatever, they're not going to make a move. The news coming out of the Vikings is that JJ has been playing lights out, and the team's really impressed with him. So I don't think, unless he would get injured again, but he took a whole year off to repair an injury that doesn't take a year to repair, right? Let's just be honest. That was kind of just like a learning year because Sam Darnold played so well. Like, let's give Darnold credit. He got himself a new contract. He faded down the stretch, but by that point they were already all in on giving him a chance, which I agree he deserved. And I mean, you can't knock him. He tried his best, probably. So then now JJ got a whole year to just sit down and learn. I really wouldn't want to learn from Aaron Rodgers, right? That's why I think it's perfect if they just don't get anybody. And to get Rodgers instead of drafting a guy and signing Aaron Rodgers. Because why would you want your rookie to learn from that? You might as well just take a Tommy Maddox year. Remember when they got Tommy Maddox? And like, yeah, we'll try this out. And it worked for a while. That's what they could do. They're just like, Aaron Rodgers fell through. We didn't draft anybody. Huh. We'll just pick someone up from the UFL, see what happens. Or XFL. Is it still the XFL? I said the UFL earlier.
UFL.
Okay. They merged, though, right?
Yes.
So that's what I think they could do, right? Is get a guy from there and ride it out. Sign the best player from there if you don't get Aaron Rodgers, and then you're still in the Arch Manning running. If that quarterback plays better, even if you save up trading because there are rumors they could trade up this year, what's one more year if you can get a quarterback that's considered better because of the bloodline? I mean, he could tank this year, and then you're like, oh my God, we waited for this guy? Because we've never seen him play. Although, to be fair, I think I brought this up before, JJ was used when Cade was Michigan's quarterback exactly like Arch was used. He would come in, he would run the ball, not really throwing it, and the people were like, can he throw the ball? And they even questioned that until the Ohio State game whenever he threw like 3 touchdowns. And everyone was like surprised that he could throw the ball. And it's like, no, they're saving it to beat Ohio State, guys. It's fine. It's perfectly fine. So Arch, we'll see, because he probably plays his big-time games earlier in the year. Oklahoma's probably, in October? They might not really need to unleash him yet. But we'll see. Because that's the other guy. Quinn Ewers is in the draft, right? I think he's at eligibility. Steelers could get him late in the draft. He can throw the ball, dude.
I mean, That's not a bad option.
Because I was high on him. He got banged up a little bit, and then that bothered him. But if you have the weapons the Steelers have, and you get him some protection, I wouldn't be like a late round QB to compete with Mason Rudolph. I would expect him to get some reps in the regular season and probably do well. So there are some other guys. Although I was thinking about this when I was jotting some things down for the show. I feel like every time I have like a very good feeling on the draft, like, oh man, I can't wait for this guy to get drafted, they never pan out. Like someone else comes out of nowhere and then they just are good. But the guys that I had mentioned, like, I can't wait till this guy gets drafted, never works out. Like Travis Hunter, I'm excited about him. He's come out and said that if they don't let him play both ways, he's going to retire. That's insane. He's going to kill his draft stock. They're not going to let him play both ways. I mean, they might let him catch a pass every once in a while. But he's not going to be cornerback 1 and wide receiver 1. Like, how crazy do you have to believe that you're the best cornerback and the best wide receiver on the team? Even Charles Woodson didn't do that. Focused on cornerback, Hall of Fame career. But I think he was bigger than Hunter. Maybe I'm wrong. So, we'll see. Did Gamble play both ways in the NFL? Didn't he focus on cornerbacking too? I feel like Hunter. Huh?
I want to say there was that he did both. I thought
he tried, and then he didn't really stick as a cornerback. I feel like he was kind of like the kick returner specialist, punt returner specialist for a bit, but I can't remember now. And then he kind of washed out. Like, he didn't have the longest career as Charles Woodson. I'm trying to think who else played both ways. That would have been made enough impact that, like, Hunter, the thing with him is he's like, he wants to play both ways, and he was a great receiver, but that's a lot of practice time, and I know you're getting paid, but you have to do double the work. Like, it's just tough. It's kind of like being a switch hitter. Like, I was a switch hitter. Coaches didn't like that. They're always like, we're not going to have you hit against so-and-so. And it's like, yeah, but I can't really see the ball that well. You can't force me just to hit left-handed because you think I'm better. I can't really see the ball out of a left-handed pitcher because I've literally never hit it, you know? But then you're kind of taking it your own time. I feel like he's taking it to the next level. Where in Major League Baseball, if you're your own guy, it's easier to just take your own batting practice. Like Chipper Jones probably had his own like special batting practice time. You can't just have your own special wide receiver time with a QB, right? Hey, practice is over. Oh, let's go back. Hey, yo, what's up? I'm here to do my wide receiver routes. And they're like, we done, dog. You're doing cornerback stuff. And then if you do the other side, then you have to do cornerback drills by yourself, which I think would be even harder. But I don't know. I guess cornerbacking is a lot of just technique and watching film, though. But I don't know. Any other NFL stuff you want to talk about?
No.
All right, on to I was going to talk about some college football, but before we get into that, the WNBA had their draft. I was very surprised, dude, that it happened so fast. Like, it's in the middle of the college semester. They didn't graduate yet. Like, the NBA, they wait till the players graduate. Like, doesn't Paige Beckers have class? She missed, like, the entire year? It's all online now?
She was in school to be a basketball player.
I will say I was surprised by how good she looked on the court. Like, because hasn't she been injured, like, a billion times? So, like, for her to win the national championship, that's the difference between her and Caitlin Clark. Like, Caitlin Clark played with a bunch of players that weren't highly recruited. I don't care what anyone says. Like, Iowa wasn't pulling in a top recruiting class every year like Connecticut. So credit to her and how well she played. Well, is that worthy of a number one pick? I don't know. Just surprisingly, she stood out surprisingly to me. And I don't know how that's going to translate to the NBA, WNBA, I mean. And to be honest, the ratings dropped so much I don't know if you saw after the college basket or WNBA or before the draft. I'm getting myself ahead of myself. The WNCAA tournament, the women's NCAA tournament ratings had plummeted because Clark wasn't there. And then they were saying that it was because of XYZ, like different teams or whatever. They didn't have like another Angel Reese. It was just kind of Paige Beckers. But I'm like, is it? Yeah, the top two teams, South Carolina and UConn in it. The men's didn't drop that much. And they were close to having their top team, Duke, play against Florida or whatever. Like Duke's a way bigger draw than Houston. Like they were so close to getting. Heck, I don't even think they would want Florida. I don't even know what they would have wanted on the other side. Duke versus Michigan, Michigan State. Like I don't know who the other big draw would have been. It's not Florida or Auburn. Like let's not kid ourselves, right? Maybe people are like such big Charles Barkley fans. They're secretly cheering for Auburn. They might get people to tune in. But I don't think those other schools have as big as a fan base. Like, obviously, if it was like Duke versus North Carolina or something in the national championship, that would be insane. Or like if Indiana somehow made it back. I mean, heck, they did have Houston's coach for a while. And they pushed him out for like NIL type stuff before. I looked it up because I was confused because I didn't know he took a few years off and then went to Houston, and that was like the last ditch effort for them. What a win. You take a gamble on a coach known for paying players, and then paying players becomes legal, and your team ends up in the national championship game. Classic. That's like what NC State did. Like, I'm not going to lie. They hired the guy from LSU, caught on wiretap paying players. And I don't even think he got a show clause from LSU. They just kind of fired him, right? And then he was like having trouble finding a job. But now that NIL's legal, what is his gripe? If you can pay players and he was busted for paying players, wouldn't that mean that he has inside track on people that are paying players to help build your team fast? Like I saw immediately when he was hired, they were like, oh, NC State might have some of their recruits transfer. And they all locked back in. It's like, yeah, no, duh. This guy's known for paying players. What do you think the first call is? Like, hey, coach, you still got those boosters behind you? Yeah. Because some of the boosters, like, let's be real. If you remember the Urban Meyer thing for football, they're not big Ohio State boosters. There was an article that said that Urban Meyer had a booster group of football fans that followed him from Utah to Florida to Ohio State. When he went to the NFL, did that booster group stay with Ryan Day? I don't know. They didn't really name any of the guys, right? Because some football fans, like if you go to, like, let's say, like Harvard or something, you're not donating to Harvard's NIL. Do you have an affinity for another team? You kind of can just pick who you want to support, right? Like, hey, I really want to start cheering for a football team. I have some extra money. I'll throw it on XYZ. All right, awesome. I like Urban Meyer. He's a great guy. We golf together. I'll help him pay for his team. That's what it seemed like he did. He had a group. I think it was maybe one or two guys. At least he had one big donor that followed him. That was just a fan of him from Utah to Florida to Ohio State. And now Ohio State had like the one of the highest paid rosters last year because they blamed Michigan's national championship on NIL. They flat out said those guys should have went pro. They shouldn't have been able to NIL them back, so we have to do the same thing. That was their booster rally. So for the basketball ones, like if Paige Beckers or whatever, like if you can get someone like that, you have to give them 2 or 3 other players to help. Caitlin Clark, not knocking on the other team players on her team, but she didn't have that support. What do you think for like NIL spilling into basketball side of things? Do you think it's enough to go around, to be honest?
Not really, if I'm being honest now. I mean, I think if you're a school that is not investing in football. Maybe. Like when you look at like a team like Crichton or Gonzaga, that they're not having to press with the football money, and you can say, we're going all in basketball, that maybe you can, when you're missing a singular player and you can throw $2 to $4 million at it, like maybe that's a potential solution to you. But I almost feel like it goes against some of the other more team concept structural things, that like if you have the rest of the team that has one set of NIL money, but you're like, I have to have this center, and they're getting paid like $12 million compared to everyone else that's just like getting hamburgers. Like it's not gonna, there's going to be natural animosity that that person's getting paid that much more.
And that's something that I like. You talk about the boosters. Penn State had that guy that paid for their hockey team. They went to the Frozen Four this year. They didn't get it done. Western Michigan got it done. Michigan's not really competing. I think it was Western Michigan. They're not really competing in football. So does NIL just naturally go to hockey for them? I don't know. That's what you got to see for these bigger schools. They can go ahead and get the guys that they want in terms of like other things. But I wonder for Catholic schools, a lot of people, because I graduated from one for undergrad, a lot of people just go ahead and cheer for Notre Dame football. So if you graduate from Gonzaga, you throw a couple bucks to like their basketball team, but then you just pay for Notre Dame football? Because they get their money from somewhere. There's a lot of people in New York that just like Notre Dame football. That was one of the things of the Big Ten trying to break in there, because if you looked at the research they did, New York City has millions of people, and their top football teams were like Notre Dame, Michigan, and Ohio State. Let's buy Rutgers, bring them in, and then that way we can get Ohio State and Michigan games near New York and people to tune in, and hopefully they can push Notre Dame out of there. Will it pay off in 10 years? Has it already paid off? It's been how many years? I don't know. Like, that's where if Notre Dame starts losing those fans because their TV ratings are down, people aren't paying for Peacock. And even with the spring games, like, yo, Notre Dame's doing whatever weird thing. If you're a casual fan that's going to throw a couple bucks because you don't have an allegiance to a school, you could pay for a top front runner, or you're going to pay for the school that you think kind of shares values with you, or maybe where you're from or your family, maybe a nephew, niece have gone there, a kid, a wife, you know. That's how Michigan got Uncle Larry. His wife was a Michigan grad, and she didn't want us to lose Michigan State anymore. Perfect. So, Florida State didn't have a spring game, right? They didn't change it back?
What's that?
Florida State didn't have a spring game, did they?
No, there's absolutely no way that they're having it.
Do you regret that?
Honestly, not really. I mean, the one thing that I did see is that we had one of our JUCO receivers transfer out after the semester, but it was like you came in, you're transferring out before you even had a chance to finish the semester. Like, I feel like, is it annoying? Yes, but at the same time, I feel like this is just the NIL era that you're dealing with, because you have like Tennessee's quarterback that, like, I can kind of rationalize if you won the SEC, or like
threw for more than 100 yards against Ohio State.
Yeah, like if you were setting records at the school and elite level, playing above and out of your mind, I can almost get on board with trying to leverage for more money. But when you're in a spot that, like, you're not winning your side of the division, let alone competing for the conference. Like, you can't be barely above 500 and trying to leverage the university for more money, especially when you've never played a meaningful professional down and you're already making $2 million and you're trying to say, hey, I need to double that. Like, you got to know your value.
Well, see, even going against other schools, because it's been like Miami that he pointed at, where they paid for Beck. Beck was a big-time quarterback. I don't think they should have paid for him just because of the extent of his injury. But if you're going to go ahead and go in and work with Cam Ward, maybe his doctor said, I'm sure the doctors cleared him or whatever, that he's back. Tennessee has, who knows what they had going for them. They had different types of quarterbacks that were better in the past, I feel like, under Upel, right? So this guy coming in, and he already he's making $8 million throughout his career there. Why ask for more? Like, if he had just won the national championship, I 100% think they would have gave it to him. Or, like you said, even the SEC. But he didn't do it. And you didn't show up to practice. Like, that's going to fracture the locker room. They said that the fans rallied around him and they came out to the spring thing and were cheering for Coach for making that move, because their fans are probably tired of it. And I think that's where the players have to be careful. You can get your money, you can go ahead and ask for more, but you have to be careful to not go overboard, because if you go overboard, you're cut, and then who's going to get you? Like, school's trying to rally around it and bring in a quarterback now, like USC was rumored, and then finally Lincoln Riley's like, no, we're not interested at this point. Like, we already have our guys, we're trying to fit our scheme to them. Where is he going to go? I honestly don't even know what other options he would have. And any school that I feel like is going to pay what he's asking, that's a dangerous game for them, and they're going to hurt their own locker room. Like, why wait to just find out if he's going to be worth it? And he might not even work. Like you said about the JUCOs transferring in and transferring right out. He might end up sitting next year and ruin his entire career over this. Now, granted, he made a decent amount of money that he can hopefully has been investing or put aside or something, right? But man, I bet he regrets it. Every coach is going to bring this up. You would think that if he was poached, or like if he had discussions with other teams, he would have been locked up by now. But last I heard, he still isn't locked up, right? So,
yeah,
an awful week for him. Or maybe the portal didn't open yet, right? I guess it hasn't, because I think Michigan is doing a full spring game, which I'm 100% pumped about. And they worked with the TV partners at Fox or the Big Ten Network, wherever they're going to show this, that they're going to show the game the following week. So it happens this weekend, Easter weekend. If people can make it out, they can make it out, whatever. And then the next week, you can sit back, watch the draft, and watch the Michigan spring game while they're calling players out. That's a big-time recruiting thing. Georgia, spring game. Miami, spring game. Even Pitt had a spring game, and I saw a ton of coverage on that. I don't know if Penn State did. Ohio State did. And I think schools that canceled them are going to regret it, because you can't play scared. Tennessee fired the warning shot to players. Like, yo, transfer. Go ahead and transfer. Michigan already had guys that announced they were going to transfer, because they know whether you have the spring game or not. Players know that they're going to be cut on the depth chart. It's going to be very hard for boosters to go to a spring game and pry a kid away from the school, because they're going to guarantee money, and then what? They go to another school and they don't get paid, and it happens maybe 1 or 2 years. It already happened like 2 or 3 years ago. A&M grabbed a bunch of guys and then didn't pay them, and now no one goes to A&M, right?
Yeah.
So it's already happened. Being afraid is just something that is crazy. Like, Alabama was afraid. They did a practice. No one showed up for it. It was so embarrassing they didn't even announce attendance. And I'm not saying that Michigan's going to have a full house, or like they said Ohio State's attendance was down too. Okay, I don't know what the weather was like or whatever. But Ohio State just won a national championship. Their team's fine. Like I think they did a game. It might have been a simulated practice or whatever. Michigan's doing 4 15-minute quarters, which is normal, with a halftime and everything. So maybe not all schools do that. I think Georgia did it, and I think Miami did it too, from what I've seen. I don't think they did it in practice. Pitt did more of a practice, I think, like Alabama. And it looked like they both had the same amount of fans there. But to try to do it as an NIL after Alabama's AD came out and begged for money is just funny for me. Like, yeah, we know we're down bad. Ohio State took our guy, and they won the national championship. They took Downs from us. Now Milrow's gone. Maybe they signed the Alabama quarterback or the Tennessee quarterback. My buddy, he's become like an Alabama guy. He's like telling me they're going to sign him. I said, go ahead, ruin your locker room. Like, is he good enough to have me afraid of Bama? No, Michigan's 2-0 versus Bama in the NIL era. 2-0 against Bama in the NIL era, Michigan. So... And that was teams that had no business competing. Michigan should not have beat Bama last year. But something about Michigan's defense, Alabama cannot block them. They couldn't block them in the Rose Bowl, and it was mishaps from the special teams and stuff that kept them in it. They couldn't block them last year, and they had to come back and try to win it with like 9-3. They were 9-3. Michigan was like 6-5 or something during that game. So 7-5. I don't even know what the record was. They did beat Ohio State the week before too, doing the same thing, defense. So if there's one thing, like, it's going to be very hard, like if you watch Michigan spring game, to watch their big time defenders and say, "Oh, hey, we just realized you guys are good." You know, Michigan has a top defense. People are already trying to poach them 100%. I guarantee it. But when you have a booster willing to pay like Miami, Michigan, Ohio State, it seems like they're not afraid, and they're only going to help themselves, because the NIL era is all about visibility. Why go to some school where you're not going to be on TV? You're not going to be doing a spring game. You're not going to have fans come up and sign stuff. Like NC State, I don't think is doing one, which I'm very disappointed about. Unless they changed their mind, but I don't think they would have. I think they would have had to announce it. It was supposed to be this Friday. And I'm bummed that it's not happening. Why would someone join an NIL collective and go meet like players to get them to sign? Like, I would much rather join and go to a spring game and just support the team than try to get some of the stuff. I was looking through them the other day before the show to try to get ready for the spring game talk. And they're all like offering you like, oh, you get a picture. Oh, you get a decal. Oh, you get the collective name on a t-shirt. Like, okay, I don't care about any of that stuff. So some schools and some fans are going to be in for a rude awakening, I think, very soon. Whether if the Big Ten wins another national championship this year, I think there's going to be a full-on panic from the SEC. And it doesn't even have to be Ohio State. It could be Penn State this year. It could be Oregon. Who knows? Maybe Underwood's hot and Michigan wins it. What happened with Taylor Lawrence at Clemson with the rookie quarterback, freshman quarterback. Maybe Texas wins it, though, with Arch. Maybe Georgia's back in it. What I saw from Georgia against Notre Dame, I was not impressed. Like, they should not have lost to Notre Dame, new quarterback or not. Notre Dame had lost to like whatever school they lost to, right? Some non-power school. So Georgia should not have lost to them. The fact that they look so bad, even if they're doing good on NIL and recruiting, I'd be worried, because all the SEC teams with the portal, they're the ones that are the most scared, because they were the ones before NIL. They could just hoard talent. Like Alabama had how many number one recruiting classes in a row, and there was no way for players to leave that weren't getting the playing time they were promised. So by default, they had more depth than everybody. NIL instantly killed that. Killed it. So spring game has nothing to do with you losing your talent. You have to either raise more money, and if you can't, like Duke was outpaid Tennessee for a quarterback. I already told you Duke was one of the richest basketball schools. If their alums start saying, like, you know what, we're going to start paying, they will be the top football program in North Carolina. And if that happened, I wouldn't even care if they joined the Big Ten. I've been against Duke joining, but if they're going to start paying NIL, bring him in, baby. Get someone else on that East Division for Penn State to compete with. If they don't want to bring in Florida State because they're uppity about it, bring in Duke, but guarantee that they're paying for football NIL. Watch how fast Rutgers fans implode if Duke comes in and they become a football power in the Big Ten. That would be hilarious to me. They could bring in North Carolina with Bill Belichick and Duke with NIL guns blazing. Put them in an East Coast division if Notre Dame doesn't want to join. And then you have that going with Penn State, the Ohio State-Michigan division. You have out west with Oregon and USC. And then you have that Midwest division with hopefully Nebraska getting their stuff together. And if not, throw like Wisconsin or Iowa or someone in there. Boom. SEC wouldn't be able to compete with that. You'd have Texas, Oklahoma maybe in one side, but I don't know what they would be able to do, especially if those schools are already paying for top talent. Spring game or not, you have to put your talent out there and show players that, yo, look at our spring game. Look at guys paying to meet the players or hanging out with them. Families like hanging out with other fans. Hiding it isn't going to help in this era. That's my final thing. Do you think, did I persuade you to reach out to Norvell to see if he'll have one next year?
I mean, as a fan, I really like it, but as a coach, I also see with the direction that some of the spring games offer and the way that they structure it out, like, I can understand why they wouldn't, especially when you have, and I feel like unique to Florida State is that there's so many people, like even within the media outlets that cover Florida State, that actively try to do things to hurt what their standing is. So it's like they had Norvell provided such a wide open media access over the course of his time at Florida State that I felt like it was almost like he was being taken advantage of. The media were like propping them up and like making it out to be that they were going to be much better than what they were. And so then when the bottom fell out of the bag, it was like, we have no idea why they're as bad as what they're. Like, you were watching practice every day. Like, don't tell me that you didn't see the possibility that something was going to go sideways. Like, were you worried that your media access was going to be restricted? Like, it just, there's so many areas that I'm like, this really went sideways when you look at like everything that was happening within Florida State. I mean, I see that they post stuff through their social media accounts, and they do this thing called The Climb, where they're providing access to players and they're showing behind the scenes things that, you know, if you really do want to have a part, like I feel like they're providing access to what Florida State football is like and what the new coordinators are like, and they're showing some of those behind the scenes things that as a lay person you probably don't have access to. So I mean, to have a true spring game, I don't know that it hurts or it helps, because I think, you know, even with where me and you are at right now, I feel like the selfish side says, yes, have the game so that you can have some extra highlights and spotlights on players within the team, and you get that extra access to being able to see what the depth and what the program is like. But honestly, I think overall, especially in the current era that you're at, where players are making decisions driven not just by the portal, but by teams attempting to reach out to family members and say, hey, if you get into the portal, we're willing to offer X amount of money. And I think you're just seeing so much more uniquely to the football side. You're seeing so much more movement that, I think eventually it's going to have to come to where there's an NFL style like contract that's being signed, because otherwise it's not a model of sustainability in terms of keeping rosters full. And like, there's nothing stopping you from just multiple times over shifting gears and going school to school to school. And you have the school players that are trying to find a home. Doesn't work out there. I'm not getting the money. So then I go to the next place. And I think part of that's just the nature of the beast.
See, I had a solution for that. So like when I played college, like you have to go in and sign the NCAA paperwork at the beginning of the year. I don't know if anyone knows this. So like you have to go in and sign your like rights away or whatever, which I'm assuming is kind of like the same thing that they do now, which is why some players had to like renegotiate for NCAA football or whatever it's called, EA college football game. But all they have to do is add a NCAA tax loophole program where, as part of membership programs belonging in the NCAA, for them to compete in the NCAA basketball tournament, all the NCAA has to do is just start telling players that they have to disclose their NIL. They don't have to tell where it's coming from or whatever. You just have to say like what the value is. The players know. The collectives are kind of pretty much set now where you're not really getting like $5 donations like on your own, I don't know, OnlyFans or something. Like you're getting paid from the collective, and it's a group of business people or whatever that are giving you advertising. Like they know, like, hey, if I'm putting in, I want access to so-and-so player for my car commercials. All right, perfect. You can have them. They're going to donate to the collective, and it just makes it easier to spread extra money around. Like I'll throw in an extra $2 million. You can spread it to the other two guys on the team, but I want X amount for so-and-so. And so the players know, the collectives know, and I think if you had a list that was published instead of like the On3 that already publishes like a best guess based on talking to the collectives, where they're like, hey, so-and-so is worth XYZ, then you would have the actual value, and they could make it like, hey, this is a Title IX issue for women's sports. Like, we just need to know who's getting paid to make sure that they're getting the same opportunities, right? They can't force women to get paid the same. But as long as they're tied into the same collective, and if a donor gives like a bulk set of money for all the players, then it should trickle down to like all the sports, I think. And I think by having players come out and say like, hey, at so-and-so school, wide receivers are making like $5 million a year. Then other schools are either going to have to match that, or the other school will kind of just naturally drop theirs to the other level, right? They're not going to pay more than what they have to. So then I think that would help stabilize the market. There's not going to be, based on the number of states here, there's never going to be a restriction like the NFL has for like collective bargaining or anything. I think the best thing you're going to have is if they can just get teams to force disclose. But honestly, that might be an issue too with like Notre Dame, because they don't even have to disclose revenues because they're a private school, right? Only public schools have to do revenues. So I don't even know if the NCAA would have the legal oversight to bring in some type of reporting for that. I'm sure the IRS wants it, right? Because how many players are not just thinking about taxes and then a tax bill hits them? Schools almost have to coach them on that. I think that's where the NCAA can kind of step in and say, like, we'll help get this together. I guarantee some schools, like, there's no way if the rumors are true and Alabama can't give top dollar payments out, there's no way they're going to want their numbers published, right? They look like fools. But I think it's pretty much clear. When the top players are picking the same 5 or 6 schools now and there's been a shift, you know which schools are actually falling through on their NIL.
Yeah.
That's all I'll say. And they're coincidentally, that same list is the same group of schools still having spring football games. No surprise there.
Well, and I think too, like if you're a prospect, I mean, I feel like number one has to be Georgia because you can just drive as fast as you want to in any vehicle, and there's never any repercussions.
See, but you have to like racing cars. What if I don't like cars?
Well, I'm pretty sure that you could race helicopters, airplanes.
What if I like church? I have to go to Notre Dame then.
Nah, there's enough churches. You can crash into a church there.
So, I mean, Georgia is the one that's kind of iffy to me because I'm surprised that they're able to keep up with NIL. And I'm honestly surprised that Clemson hasn't been able to throw their weight around as much with their car dealership stuff. Excuse me. At least that was based off the old rumors with Dabo, where they were getting their money from.
But I think the game has really changed. Like when you're looking at the quarterback from Tennessee, that's right now like being pissed at getting paid only $2 million. You fear there were probably teams like the Alabamas in their prime that barely $1 million would be enough to secure just about anybody that they wanted.
That's why I think they're panicking. That's what the rumors are for Alabama. They're used to paying less because they were using bagmen or whatever. Now schools aren't afraid. I mean, it's unfair enforcement. Tennessee got hit for paying players. What happened? Nothing. Michigan with the Fab Five gets hit for paying players. Shut down. SMU paying players. Shut down. Like the northern schools are like some of like the random schools that they picked. LSU, wiretap, caught paying players. What happened to their basketball program? Nothing. How many schools were on that list of the FBI? Duke was on there for paying Zion.
But part of that is like, are you taking ownership for it, or are you just adamant that no, A, we didn't do anything wrong, and B, you're not going to punish us for it.
Well, see, that's where I'm glad NIL is legal now, because now if Michigan wants to fire a money cannon at the basketball program like they've been doing, now we're back to the Fab Five days. I just want it to be fair. Why punish Michigan?
But look at what happened to Florida State with their recruiting thing. Like they came forward with it and just said, "Oh, we did this," and they had, the suspensions to the offensive coordinator, and they had all these other things, and they just been like, "Nah, giant middle finger."
But see, all those other schools, all the schools in the SEC were getting off. Michigan, Fab Five, harsh penalties. Rich Rod, penalties. Ohio State, Tattoo Gate, penalties. Penn State, even unrelated to football, penalties. Who else got hit? Notre Dame still has classes taken away for like one kid taking a tutor or something. Give them back. Like, you can't. Tennessee was caught paying players. Ole Miss was caught paying players. Did Ole Miss anything happen? They had to fire their coach or whatever, but they didn't lose wins. They didn't get hit as hard as the Big Ten schools. And that's because the Big Ten schools are always telling on each other. So some of it's like their own. Like, how many coaches were going after Harbaugh? They even had a Big Ten coaches meeting to try to get him suspended. That's ridiculous. SEC would never do that. And that's why I think they got away with it. Now with NIL out in the open, though, let it happen. Michigan, like I said, Michigan's basketball team seems like they're reloading. Might even be better next year. If all the players that they have committed sign, because some of them are like could go to the NBA.
Well, they said like
awesome.
I think, and it's probably following a similar vein of what you've already described, but to give some value to this, have the ability to buy players out, because if Coach A wants to be picked up by another school, there's a contract already in place that they're bound to that school, and if they want to leave, the other school they can either buy them out or there's some kind of contractual finances attached to it. with the players, like they can leave, they can up and leave at any point, that I think makes it that much more challenging in terms of building a roster. That if you have that dollar amount, it up front, I think it prevents shady coaches from being like, oh, we're gonna bring you in and then cut your legs out from underneath you. Like, I think at least it's going to give some stability to the players, because right now the people that are being hurt most, going back to the beginning of our show, it's high school athletes. Like, high school athletes are the ones that are going to severely be penalized, because if you're a major college program, do you risk a 17, 18-year-old kid who's never played and is likely going to transfer out in a year or two? Or do you already you put your money towards paying for someone who's already shown that they can pass classes at the college level, they're more mature, they're physically more developed, that can contribute immediately? Like, there's no more. I think that developmental piece is being skipped, and it's just jumping right to who can help me right now.
Well, that's why. So, like, my intent of having players disclose the value wasn't to hurt certain schools. It's for player protection too, because, like, to your point, so and so writes down that they're getting paid $1 million to go to A&M. I'm calling them out because they were called out for not paying players. That player then can report to the NCAA like, yo, haven't received my payment. So, like, make sure that I'm not getting taxed by the IRS for this. And then the NCAA then can say, all right, you're released from your scholarship. Then the portal window kind of closes, right? They don't have to have these transfer portal bidding wars. Because if you sign, because the way it used to be, you sign a scholarship, you're locked in for the year, right? No more transfers, whatever. You sign, you put your value down, whatever they offered you. If that school continues to pay you, that's it. If you pull the Tennessee thing and you're not going to go to practice or whatever, you're done. Guess what? You can't transfer until the end of the year or whatever. You could, like, basically blow your career. Then that ties back in to, like, what? Not even like loyalty to the teams or whatever. And if they have to do it, because everything I've heard is that the portal window has to do it because of schools on the semester system or whatever, where they have to be able to transfer and be in place by the transfer. Then you have two windows, one in the fall, one in the spring, and then however you want to do, like, freshman incoming signings. But I think that by disclosing the value, having the players acknowledge the value, that would, and then make sure that the teams are paying. Like, if
you really wanted to be a dick about it, the colleges could come out and say, if you transfer, you're not eligible that season. You can transfer because, like, if you're a spread style quarterback and now your team's going to a more traditional set, like, that's fine. Transfer to another school, but you're going to sit out the rest of that.
Well, that's what I think the NCAA has to do. If you sign the thing, it has to go back to it's for the year. You can't transfer like a week before summer.
Because that's one of the rules that locally they've tried to put in place to prevent the private parochial schools from overloading. Is like, if you transfer in, like, right at the start of the year, then you're not going to be eligible to play in the playoffs. So, like, that's trying to prevent some of those teams from, I want to transfer to the super team and pad my, like, help develop these super teams that we're going to mow through single A with a bunch of 2A, 3A style bodies.
And that's where I think, like, right now, you can transfer at the end of spring to a competitor. That's why I think some of the smaller schools are afraid. Like, Dion's not afraid. They had theirs. Like, if you come at the Colorado spring game and you're doing awesome, and Alabama just realized that their practice or whatever, that they needed so-and-so, they might be able to outpay Colorado. So then they can pick and choose. Where if you locked in, like you said, if you transfer now, you have to wait a semester or whatever, which would be the fall semester. Then you're only available for the playoffs. Like, is that worth it? I don't know. Like that would be the thing. Like, do you risk it? Like Ohio State, like there were two kind of ways to do it. Like Michigan's transfer philosophy under Harbaugh was that they were taking guys that were balling out at like Coastal Carolina and smaller schools, even like teams like Arizona State or Stanford, guys that had graduated and were grad transferring and bringing them in. Then you have the Ohio State where they're just like, hey, Downs is awesome at Alabama. Let's pay for him. Judkins doesn't like Ole Miss. They're not paying him. Let's just take him. And they pick the top players from each school, right? Howard was balling out. He doesn't want to go to Kansas State. They didn't get Ward. So like they had him as a backup plan. So that's what I think could happen. If they disclosed the values, which I don't know if they legally can do, I think that would be my first step. And then they have to figure out the locking of the contract. To your point of like, when can they transfer that? Because if you sign a contract in the NFL, like that's it. The team has to release you, and then you're free to transfer. But then the school would still have to take you. Like Tennessee right now is in the middle of the semester. If it was my system, he would effectively be kicked out of Tennessee, right? If he willingly doesn't go to practice, his scholarship is null and void. He has to pay for the semester, or he has to leave.
That does make sense,
right? You sign the contract just because so-and-so signed a better contract than you. Wait till the next year. Like the whatever. If it's in the fall and it is locked by February, that's it. Don't hold out now in April. You're done. You're locked in. I think if they did, I don't even know if they could do it in December because of the bowl games and stuff. I think most players sit out the transfer then. Players transferring right before fall camp is weird to me. But who am I? Anything else you want to add on that?
No.
You have anything else you want to talk about?
I think that's about it for tonight.
All right. Well, thanks for listening. If there's anything anyone wants to talk about, let us know, and we will see you next week.